everyone, happy Friday. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week so far. I feel like my week went from like this to this. My son was sick earlier in the week, as some of you guys know, and so it was definitely exhausting. But gratefully he's much better now, so it was like ramping up all the work that I could possibly finish before the weekend. If you guys are not aware, Canada celebrates Thanksgiving on another day, and Canada is where I am. So this is another long weekend for us. Last weekend was also a long weekend, so that's why, I don't know. I mean, you guys probably know it. If you are a parent, you know that weekends are not a weekend. It's actually probably more work than anything. So I'm really, really grateful that I get to do work and also provide for my family and be a mom at the same time. But definitely it's not the easiest. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Oh, Danny, I don't know if you want to come in and join me in my life for a little bit. I'd love for you to join us. But if not, that's also okay. um, I I often get requests from people to go live, but Danny from Ink Blank page, she was one of my students, so I was like, okay, I would totally love it if you would come in and join and talk to our group all about pricing challenges, because I'm sure all of us have experienced it before and or are currently experiencing it. And so before I kind of dive deep into this, I want to be kind of like a counselor and preface this. And I used to think this was a funny exercise, but now that I have become a mom and I am constantly dealing with some kind of meltdown and some kind of phase, I personally understand the reason why people need to be seen or want to be seen. So if you are currently struggling right now with your pricing, or if you feel like you're not enough, or that there's something wrong with you when people are not hiring you and you think it might be because of pricing, I want to let you know that what you're feeling is actually normal. And 99% of the time, it's not you. Okay. I want to preface it with that. Okay. There's a lot of different factors that affect people buying. Okay. There's a lot of that, and pricing is just one tiny part of it. And I always say it like this, like if somebody doesn't hire you only because of the pricing, they're probably not going to be the right person that matches your brand. Okay. But of course, if you absolutely find that there's nobody is ever hiring you, no one is even coming over to purchase, then perhaps there are different things that we can look at, such as marketing. Am I being visible to my target audience? Is my target audience seeing me and finding me when they want to find me, and those kinds of things versus pricing? I will tell you this, that after 10 years of being in business, and outside of that, I've also had lots of different businesses, so a lot of different experience with regard to pricing. I find that most people actually don't know what the price is. Okay, so they don't know what's expensive and what's not, and what their going rate should be for a person. Like, they might have a general idea. I mean, some of them do their research, or like they would ask around, but most of the people, they actually have no idea, and most of the time they just don't understand the value. And that's part of our role as the business owners, and to educate our customers. When I was starting out in modern calligraphy, it was still very new in the industry. Most people didn't really know how to price it out. Like, the only people that hired a calligrapher, what it felt like at that time, was like the president of the United States. It seemed like a very traditional element, and so very few people knew what it was like. Hey, Chanel, that it felt overwhelming to showcase pricing, or to price out certain things, because there wasn't a lot of information in the market. And so But now that obviously it's been around for a while, but I would say for the people, your actual clients, though, most of the time they don't know other calligraphers, they don't know other letterers, they have really no idea of how hard it is to do what we do. Okay, so I want to let you know that, like I said, 99% of the time it's not your fault. Okay, so I want you to know that if you are feeling like, oh, is it me? It's not you. Okay. Most of the time it's something else, and then it's definitely not going to be pricing. But there are certain challenges that people we do face with pricing that I do want to kind of go over. I mean, a few days ago I did a reel about this, and I just felt really underwhelmed making that reel about pricing, because I'm like, how am I supposed to explain why pricing a certain way doesn't work um, in just 30 seconds. Like, that's why I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do a live on this so that I can better explain myself. And if at any point in time you have any questions at all, feel free to post it in here. I'll read it out loud, and when people reply to us, they can't even tell who did it, so who asked that question. So it feels anonymous in that sense. And if you have any additional questions you don't feel comfortable sharing it here, you can certainly DM me. I will say though that this weekend is a little busy on the DM side, because um, a lot of people are doing our giveaway, our anniversary giveaway. So a lot of people have been DMing me, but that's absolutely okay. Okay, I will go through them slowly, but get there. So I'm here and open to help, and that's the reason why we even have the course out, right? Like, because I do want to help you guys find that confidence with pricing and with everything else with running a business, because it is hard. Okay, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not going to promise you that when you start your business that it's not going to be any work at all, because that's not true. In fact, you'll probably work harder than you've ever done before. But the beauty of it is that you're doing what you love, and that passion can help drive what you do. And also, there's really a lot of joy in also seeing your customers happy. Of course, that don't use that as your basis for your why. And don't use that as your only source of happiness, please, because that wouldn't be good. When the customers are not around, that doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It's certainly usually something else. Okay, so going into the pricing, so the first one that I often that I shared last time, even on the reel, was underpricing. Okay, so underpricing is very common, because most of the time it feels like we need to be cheaper than everybody else, because we reflect on our own experience, right? When we say, for example, go on Amazon and we try to look for something, first of all, we almost always look for the prime, and if we could get it as soon as possible, and of course if it was priced well enough, and of course it had the best reviews or something, right? So um, those kinds of experiences sometimes influence the way we shop otherwise. But you probably know it yourself. Like, the things you buy on Amazon is different from the things you purchase for yourself that you really value, right? So for example, for your clothing, um, even if you can find the cheapest pair of leggings, you'll probably think twice about it, because you want to make sure that those leggings actually look good on you, and that it would fit well, and that it is the best one. Yes, it could be the cheapest one, but sometimes it's not exactly the case, right? Like, you will actually find an experience where, you know what, I'm going to invest in that brand of leggings, because when I wear it, I feel really good. It compresses me well. The sizing fits me best, even though it's more expensive than the Amazon brand, right? I speak on Amazon because I personally purchase on Amazon, and there's certain things I just will never buy on it, just because I've experienced the quality sometimes on them, and that's not it's the place that I would probably you know expect low price and high reviews, but not necessarily the best performance. And so, with regard to offering a service, an artistic skill, like calligraphy, for example, or lettering, I certainly believe that it shouldn't ever be the cheapest in the market. I recently received an email some time before with from Crooked Calligraphy, and then she was saying how, you know, you shouldn't compare your pricing to Etsy, for example, because sometimes like the pricing on there could be on the much lower end of things, and so that and when you set your prices too low, you can undervalue your skills, and then I actually find it's very hard to increase pricing. Even until now, I haven't increased my prices for the most part for anything. Um, Even though in the past, you know, 3 years specifically, like things have gone up significantly. Our shipping costs are through the roof. You know, it's just so difficult because it's we can't increase the price because I know I'm already on the higher end of a pricing bracket. So if I increase my prices even further, I know I'm going to lose out on certain people. And so even I myself, I struggle with having to increase prices because I know what it feels like to be the customer and having and experiencing that myself when a company tells me that they have to increase prices. At some point in time, I probably have to. It's just that everything's going up. You know, when you think about your pricing, you can't just think about the cost of what you are making. You know, there's so many other costs related to it. That's why underpricing is so dangerous, because if you aren't able to even recoup the costs of what you do, you'll end up pretty much doing it for free, you know, and that's not healthy. I'm not saying that you should only do it for money, but I'm just saying that you need to be able to price well enough to continue thriving in your business. Um, and that's the hard part about underpricing, is that especially if you aren't even able to recover your costs. And I'm not talking about just the cost of the product or whatever else. You have to consider the time that you also spent talking to the person, dealing with the back and forth, any other additional admin fees, handling fees. There's just so many things involved. In the course itself, I do go through like every different kind of product and service, and like things that you should consider in the pricing, what you should roll in, what you can roll in elsewhere. But that's are definitely that those are things that you have to consider with regard to pricing. So personally for myself, bottom line in regards to pricing, this is just bottom, okay? So it doesn't mean that you should stay this way. The bottom line is definitely making sure that you calculate your costs, okay, that you make sure you know your materials, all the time, all the additional overhead costs, or even like you can even mark this part up a little bit, just because there's going to be some difficult customers, okay, and ensure that your pricing covers all of that at the minimum. Make sure that you also research the industry standards and the competitors, that way you can set decent rates, you know. As a person that's starting out, yes, it might feel uncomfortable for you to price it incredibly high. That's okay. The cool thing is, when you're starting out, you can still pivot and change. If you've been in it and for 5 years, 10 years, you want to change your pricing, yes, it's still possible. Is it harder? It could be, especially if you have an existing client base that is used to a certain amount of pricing, right? And that's what I'm saying, is that if you underprice yourself right from the beginning, it may be difficult to serve the same community when you increase your prices by too much. The Pillow Notebook is asking, but if you need to build your portfolio, wouldn't it be considered an investment in a way? I guess it depends. Are you speaking about like if you had to, you know, pay money to build your portfolio? Like, for example, if you want to do like a photo shoot with somebody and things like that, or if you had to price yourself out for certain things? I would say yes and no. Okay, so I would say when I was starting out in modern calligraphy and I was doing a lot of style shoots in the beginning, a lot of it definitely was um, given out as a trade. So there was a lot of you know, we would chip into to rent a venue, we would trade on our services and things like that. But nowadays I find that a lot of the style shoots, they actually would share the costs as well. So because there's varied kinds of costs, right? For example, for the photographers, they have the film, the flowers. Those are probably the most costly ones because they have to spend so much on rentals and the flowers and the decor and everything else. And then for yourself, if you needed to print certain things for the photo shoot itself, so your materials, yes. So for that one, for that kind of investment, yes. But I would also caution on the people that you would be working on the style shoots with. My purpose, my primary purpose for doing a style shoot is not just for the photos. My primary purpose is that I want to see us referring each other. So if I find that these people are not going to be their audience is not the same market as mine, then I probably shouldn't be working with them, or just because, I mean, I use it as a networking tool. That's what I'm saying, is that I use it as a networking tool to hiring the photographers, the wedding planners that I want to work with the most. So when I was starting out as a invitation designer, I got to work with a few of the photographers and wedding designers that would constantly get me work back, because those were their clientele was the type that would hire me. So I wouldn't, like, I essentially, I vet out the client, the people that would want to do a styled photo shoot with me, because I want to make sure that the resulting work is, first of all, something that I would relate to as a client, and also for my brand. And then of course that they would also be ending up to send me clients, because the um, the flow, I would say, of a wedding client is typically not from from us, because usually they would hire the wedding planner or get the wedding venue first and the photographer first before they flow to us. Like, it's actually rarely that we are the first people that they go up and then they'll ask you which wedding planner you know. I mean, of course, if you find your dream client that they care, number one priority for them is stationery, then yes. But I would say it's very rare that the number one priority is stationery, because they still have the couple, and the couple sometimes their number one priority is food, or like the venue or things like that. But yes, and the pillow notebook, I don't know your name, but I should find out. I'm like, thank you for asking that question. I really appreciate that, because it's true. You know, there are certain things I definitely did and I still do that is an investment, you know. But like I said, it's also, it has to have some kind of return in some way, shape, or form. And that's also, I would say, has to do with the people, the influencers. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, of influencers asking things for free, which I don't understand. um, because, believe it or not, they're not the only people who do that. Celebrities do that too. Okay, so they have all this following and they want to trade your services with their with being able to work with them, and maybe they'll post stuff about you. And I would say 99% of the time it's not really helpful. um, Danny is laughing, and it's true, because sometimes, and it's not because I've done it from experience, but it's because I've seen it happen, where the people, their audience is just not the right market for you. Yeah, you know, it's just, it just won't resonate very well with your audience, or they, for example, their feed has nothing to do with weddings, and then all of a sudden they expect that after a few stories they would give you back the amount of service. Like, would that really pay for the $5,000 worth of invitations that you're making them? um Oh, Danny was just saying, yeah, like, I've been asked by companies for my live event engraving services to do it as a donation. No, yeah, no, please don't. It's always for influencer events. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. But it's so true, right? Because they're like, we're influencers, we influence the market. But I actually find most of the influencers, a lot of people, they're awesome content creators. I give them that, but I actually don't think people buy from them as much. Maybe certain people they would like certain kinds of things, but not all the time, you know. And especially if you're kind of a little bit off kilter to them, like, which is like their wedding. or the one time that they hired you. I get that. And I've worked with celebrities or big influencers companies, or people, I mean, sorry, not companies, but and they would take advantage of that. And so in a way, doing it for free or like for in exchange for certain things, unless it's your actual market, I would at least ask them to cover the cost, if you really, really, really resonate with this group of people. But seriously though, like, especially for the celebrity side, they have the money to pay you. Like, I just don't understand why they would ask for free stuff. Like, it actually absolutely appalls me that the celebrities would do that themselves. Like, yeah, like, it just doesn't make any sense. And for the most part, for celebrities, they'll make you sign a non-disclosure agreement, so you can't even promote that you work with them. So what's the point in doing that for free? So might as well get paid, right? Anyway. Overpricing is also a challenge for some, and I personally struggle with overpricing sometimes, just because it feels like I'm on the more expensive side of things. Um, and there's going to be some, I mean, the challenge is obviously the fact that there are going to be some potential clients that will go away, and it does limit your market. But in a way, when you limit your market, though, I find that you are focusing on your niche a little bit more, and in fact, it can give you more yeses. So see, the thing is this, like, even if so your market is like this, um, when you are on the lower end of pricing, it allows you to have a bigger target market, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your conversion rate is better. So conversion rate is how and the percentage that actually would buy, right? So it'd be like, oh, I'm interested is big, but the actual conversion rate could be low because they also have a lot of other interests, a lot of other things to look at. And in fact, they might even try to find your stuff elsewhere than see, you know what, I actually don't really care about that. But sometimes when you get to the top of that food chain, they're much more willing to spend. Their conversion rate is a lot higher because they don't care. They have the capacity to do it. So it's just like thinking about it in that sense, like the way that how people behave with regard to pricing. But I would also, like I said, um, really focus also on how you are on your branding. If you are wanting to be on the more expensive side of things, is that, are you like showing them showing them that this is like value that you want. For example, okay, if you are a wedding planner, like Under and Blessing just joined, and you can chime in on this if you'd like to. Hey Jess, it's like, if your portfolio doesn't, if you wanted to focus on a very luxury, grand, opulent, over the top type of weddings, you probably shouldn't be putting any kind of rustic farm weddings on your portfolio, because that's not the same market. Those grand, opulent, like big drapey hotel wedding type of people would not really want that look of a farm wedding on your portfolio, just because they're looking for that big grand piece. They want the wow, the grandeur of it, right? So like, if you aren't able to show that to your client, like, they won't see what's so unique about you, and they can't see the value. And people, I would say, or for example, for wedding clients or whatever, most people are very visual. What they see, they perceive, have a certain perceived value. You probably experienced that yourself. However, you go down in the mall and you don't even go to a certain store because you know that it's expensive, and you have no idea that it's actually cheap, but it's just because the way they display their products, it just looks expensive. I've done that before. I'm like, I thought that store is expensive, and turns out they weren't, but it's just that perceived value from the outside in. And so I would say the focus of, if you're trying to be on the more expensive end of things, is to make sure that you are highlighting that unique value that you offer, to help justify those higher prices. Especially, for example, if you're wanting to work with the luxury brands, right? Like, working on things, and that your work looks like it's expensive, and presenting that to them. Um, speaking of earlier when we were talking about underpricing and things, it was like discounting too freely, right? Like, oftentimes brands are not our target market, guys. Or if it's too frequent that it almost looks like it's too salesy, offering too frequent of discounts can also make people expect a sale or want a sale all the time, and it devalues your services. So I personally find that it's a hard game to play, and that's why I mentioned earlier, like, it's okay that you feel like you struggle with it, because for example, currently I would say this year, um, retail is actually doing a lot better, rightfully so, because now COVID is sort of over. So that means wholesale is doing a little bit better as well, but a lot of e-commerce websites are doing terribly during COVID. During COVID, they did really well. Have you ever noticed that during COVID, there's so many e-commerce business popped up, and you're probably seeing a lot of them kind of disappear right now. And it's because now suddenly people are in the stores and they're not shopping online as much, especially during summer. Before, even during summer, we were forced to be at home a lot more, and so we were on our phones more and purchasing more. And then suddenly the seasonality of online purchasing has changed. And so there's also other aspects to pricing that is not solely just because of the number value that you show up. It's just because of the capacity of your target market to purchase. So there's just like there's waves, there's ebbs and flows to the market. It's not always you. I mean, like, if you guys ever are, or if you are into cryptocurrency, you'll probably experience those highs and lows all the time. Like, I have a little widget on my phone that tells me how high, what is Bitcoin today. And I just can't help laughing because my husband will, like, it's down today, or like it's up today, and like in an hour later be like, it's up, or like something like that. It's so volatile. And I would say that as well with the market currently. Like in Canada, for example, like our mortgage rates right now are ridiculously high. Hey, Mar. Um, and like most people cannot afford to even get a new place because they can't afford to get to do the mortgage. They can't even afford to pay their current mortgage because of how high the interest rates are. So if you look at the market as well, and then now the people's capacity to buy is smaller, then even if your pricing was on point this time last year, this year it might not be for them. And the people are move also in their income bracket. People don't often just stay in there. There's seasons in their life where they might have to spend a little bit more, and there's seasons in life they have the capacity to spend, right? So that's why I said there's so many different parts for it, and that's why personally for myself, when I look at our pricing, like I said, make sure at the very, very least that you're calculating your costs and covering all of that, and of course making sure that you're also earning from that. But if you don't consider all the different costs and like indirect expenses, like the amount of time it takes to respond to somebody, and the back and forth and an email. I mean, you've probably experienced that one client that has gotten back with and forth with you for like 60 emails, and you can see that on Google, right? Like when you see it's like 60 messages, this just giant string of it. Like the amount of time it even just took you to type and think about what to write, it definitely affects that. And remember too that no matter what you do, that pricing isn't really a static thing. It can evolve as your business grows, right? Or as the market changes, because like I mentioned, even for finding your niche, right? It's not just yourself. There's also your market needs, there's also your own passion, right? And sometimes there's just opportunities that we don't normally see before. And sometimes you have to make those opportunities happen. Because that, and I mean, that's all what marketing is about. But it's okay starting as you're starting out, because you're new to it still, and you're new to creating so many different things, you want to continuously evaluate and adjust your pricing strategy so that it aligns with what you are trying to do as a business, right? Because it's difficult to think like, okay, I'm gonna just be like this for forever because that this is what worked last year. But no, things change too. Like I said, like the market has been changing a lot this year. Most of the e-commerce businesses that I know, and even my own, this year has been a rough year for us. For the past few months specifically, you know, it makes us rethink our marketing strategy. It makes us look at our pricing or like think about like, okay, so what can we do to help improve things? And that's part of how a business evolves. Like it's a normal nature of it. It's not you. It's you are not the problem. Everything else sometimes kind of pulls around it, but use it as an opportunity to help you grow, being resilient essentially to how it is, and that way you can effectively address like whenever these challenges come around. Yes, there's probably going to be some seasons where you have to just ride a wave. Okay, I will say that sometimes it feels like it's a bit scary to do that, but I find that whenever there's a slow season, that when it helps us grow in terms of our skills, in terms of our efficiency, because it definitely makes me think about, okay, how else can I make this better so that I don't have to work as hard to do certain things, right? You don't get that time when it's busy. So these are opportunities for you to show yourself that grace in order to grow. Because sometimes as a business, you just go, 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 and it's kind of hard to kind of pare back and think about how else can you grow. And pricing, honestly, is just one part of it. So guys, as I'm wrapping up here, Calligraphy Business Kickstarter, which is my course on how to start your calligraphy business, the enrollment is ending today. So this is going to be our only enrollment this year. And next year we are looking at around May that we will reopen this, and possibly another time in October again. I'm not certain, just because this year is definitely and that has been a very interesting year for me, like kind of changing into this life with two kids. And I'm also trying to reevaluate how can I improve my business for 2024, um, without dying from too much, being stretched too much, right? I would say, especially this year when, you know, this past 2 months with school starting, my kids have just been sick left, right, and center, and then getting me sick too. And so because of that, I was just being realistic with the amount of time I actually have and what can I do with that time. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, and I hope you guys can join us. If you have, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to send me a DM. Also, we have our anniversary sale happening currently. If you'd like to get something from the shop, it's Happy10 for the discount code. And then also we have the giveaway. So that one's open internationally. So if you want to jump on that, if you really have, thank you so much for joining. All right, thank you guys so much, and I hope to see you guys in another live one of these days. Bye for now.